Hi, my name's Sarah Mathieson and I'm a school librarian at St Columba's College in St Albans, and I'm also one of the Carnegie and Kate Greenaway judges for 2021 and 22. I'm going to be recommending three books for you: a picture book, a middle grade book and a young adult book. The first one I'm going to talk about is a picture book, and I've chosen this one, Peace at Last by Jill Murphy. This is a real classic book. It was actually published 40 years ago this year, so published in 1980, but it's a completely timeless book. It's a fantastic story about Daddy Bear who can't get to sleep at night. He first of all gets woken up by his wife snoring, then he tries to go to sleep in his son's room, Baby Bear's room, and he's making a noise. He goes downstairs, there's noises all over the house, the living room, with the clock. He goes into the kitchen, there's a leaky tap, and then finally he goes into the garden and the car, and there's lots of noises there as well. It's a great book. It's got lots of repetition in it, which is great for young children, and it also has these wonderful black and white pictures on the same page as the colour, which is really lovely. It sort of brings out sort of the detail of what's going on. At the end, when he finally gets to sleep, he's suddenly woken up again by his alarm clock, and his wife brings him a cup of tea, and you can really get a sense of his tiredness at that point. I think it's a really great book. I've really enjoyed reading it with my children, and I remember having it when I was a child as well, and I think it's one that your children would really love as well. The next book that I'm going to be recommending to you is the middle grade book, and it's this one, The Goldfish Boy by Lisa Thompson. I'm especially pleased to be recommending this one to you as it won the St Albans Schools Book Award in 2018, which my school takes part in. It's also been longlisted for 2 national awards as well. So this book is all about Matthew. It's a 12-year-old boy who hasn't left the house in weeks. He has obsessive compulsive disorder, which means that he likes everything neat and tidy, he can't stop washing his hands, and it's becoming a real problem. He spends a lot of his time just in his room looking out of his window, and he makes notes on what all his neighbours are up to, but it's not very interesting. They're just doing normal things like shopping and gardening. And then one day, some children arrive to be looked after by their grandparents next door, and the little boy, Teddy, a toddler, goes missing. So Matthew turns detective to see if he can work out what happened to Teddy. So, along with some other people, in particular a girl named Melody, they try and work out what's happened to Teddy. So it's a mystery book. There's also a secondary storyline about what triggered Matthew's OCD in the first place. There's kind of 2 things going on within the book. It's a really great read, Bill page turner. It has little pictures above each chapter, which are really nice, things like this. So sort of added interest to it. And it's a really gripping page turner. If you want to find out what happened to Teddy, you want to know why Matthew got OCD in the first place. I think if you like things like wonder, curious incident, that type of thing, this book's a really good read. And Lisa Thompson has written some other books as well. So if you do go on to read this and enjoy it, she's written lots of other books as well, which you'll probably be interested in finding more out about. The last book that I'm going to be recommending to you is the young adult book, and it's After the Fire by Will Hill. This book centres on a girl called Moonbeam who lived in a cult in America called the Lord's Legion. The book flicks about between events before the fire and events after the fire. Before the fire is when she's living in the cult with people that she called her brothers and sisters, and the cult is controlled by someone called Father John. After the fire, it's set in a sort of a hospital where she's recovering, and she's sort of learning about all the things to do with the Lord's Legion and trying to work out what actually happened in there. And there's other characters in there as well. There's a nurse and a doctor and a police agent as well who are trying to help her and ask her questions about what happened within the cult itself. She finds this very difficult at first because she's not supposed to talk to outsiders, which is what they call people who weren't in the cult. Before the fire is all about the lead up to the fire that happened within the cult and where they live. So they weren't able to go outside of this compound basically, and there was at the beginning of the story, you know, there has been a fire. So the events flick between the 2, and it's very clear when you're reading about which one, because each chapter is called before or after, so it's very clear as to which one it is. This is a real page turner. It's a thriller. You want to know kind of what happened. It sort of drip feeds the whole events leading up to the fire, and obviously Moonbeam's recovery afterwards. I would say it is a young adult book, so I would say 14 plus. There's lots of things in it that will make you want to keep reading. I don't want to give anything away really, But for me, I read it within just a couple of days. It is quite a big book, but that's a good sign if you get through a book very quickly, and I certainly did. This is actually on the shortlist for the Carnegie Medal in 2018, and it is a really great read. I really hope you pick it up and give it a go.